Hi everyone, this is Read It Again, and today we're interviewing W.H. Rose, and we're talking about her new book, Intro to the Laconic. And do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Wisteria Rose. I am a young adult author, in this case at least, and this book is actually my first YA book, so I'm super excited to share it with you guys. I've been writing for pretty much my whole life now, but I just recently became an author. My 1 year anniversary was actually like last week, so I'm pretty new to the game, but I'm super excited to be here, and I'm super excited to be interviewed by you guys, so thank you so much for this opportunity.
And do you want to go ahead and give us a reading from your new book?
Sure. So I'm just going to take one of my like Amazon copies so I don't have to worry about binning it. But I'm going to be reading from chapter 12. So there's obviously a spoiler warning right now. But in case you don't know, this book, Intro Laconic, is about two teenagers who live in a world that's very similar to ours in a different reality where people have soulmates. But it's theorized that everyone has a soulmate, but very few people actually ever meet theirs. Like 99.9% of the population never does. So it comes as a big surprise when our main character, Venus, actually meets her soulmate, Taein, at a fan meet. And if that wasn't crazy enough, it turns out that Venus lives here in Georgia, and Taein is actually a K-pop idol all the way from Korea. So they have to really work together and figure out how to overcome all these different hurdles between the two of them. And yeah, it's just a really sweet story. But I will go ahead and read part of chapter 12 for you guys. So again, spoiler warning if you haven't read it already. Chapter 12, Venus. Thunder startles me awake from an unsteady sleep. For a moment, I am disoriented, unable to remember where I am. My heart rate slows, and the figure Arabella my soul began to contact his men, using her connections to get through to them. For once in her life, she was completely unsuccessful. After hours of attempting, Charlotte disgruntledly left the hospital late last night to contact Mother and plan her next action. Arabella and Mama stayed with me the whole time, distracting me and trying to make me smile. It worked, but now the too silent, too white room allows the dread to creep into me. I have not been abandoned. Arabella's snores are light and Mama's breathing is even, but the emptiness is back full force regardless. I sigh heavily and roll over to my side, staring out the window. My hair tickles my nose, and I am grateful for whoever washed it when I was unconscious. My curls are back, soft and slightly frizzy. In the back of my mind, I wonder if Mother has already sent someone to clean the mess I left in my room and repair the door. No doubt she had Charlotte call someone before she flew out here. The apartment is probably already spotless. Lightning strikes again and thunder booms, casting a sudden bright light over my face. I sit up and swing my legs over the side of the hospital bed, landing softly on my feet. The desire to have a moment alone is overwhelming. I haven't even begun to process what's happening, and I think fresh air will really help me out. My ivy is hooked to a small pole with wheels. Either. I walk over to the window and lay my right palm on the cool glass just as another flash illuminates the sky. That desire multiplies as I take in the vast garden. I want to go outside. I need to go outside. My hand drifts off the glass and I head towards the door, making sure not to rouse my air. I crack the heavy wood open slightly, peeking for anyone on patrol. Always empty, void completely of life. I will the ivy out of the room and start walking, attempting to be as silent and invisible as humanly possible. I have no idea where I am going, but the urge to go outside gets stronger with every step. It's as if the storm is calling to me, guiding me to it so it can deliver an important message. I manage to find a glass door that leads outside, rain collecting on its surface. I pull it open silently and step outside, dragging the ivy over the brick sidewalk. Rain pelts down on me and quickly soaks through the pathetically thin hospital gown I'd woken up in. I hardly notice. The cold seems nearly non-existent, and I can barely see a foot in front of my face, the heavy rain turning everything into a blur. Regardless, I trudge on, trusting my feet to take me where I need to go. Lightning strikes again and briefly illuminates a small gazebo. I walk in that direction and step under it, my sight restored. Rain hangs off my lashes, falling like tears as I blink, taking in my surroundings. Lightning strikes once more, allowing me to see the figure propped against one of the gazebo's columns. He sits with one knee pulled under his chin and stares out into the storm, seeming not to notice my presence. At this angle and under this poor lighting, I am unable to tell much about him, his wet hair covering much of the side of his face. Hesitantly, I sit next to him, unsupported by a column. I study the boy's back, attempting to figure out why he would be outside during the middle of a storm. The thought leads me to wonder why I myself am here. But I just felt this pull. The lightning strikes once more and thunder follows, causing me to let out a small squeak. I was so focused on my thoughts that the thunder's sudden interruption surprised me. The boy turns from the storm and looks at me, shadows obscuring his face. He rises and my head follows, watching his ascension in my direction, and I take it, gently laying my palm in his. The world explodes in warmth. The pain melts away. Shocked, I attempted to say something, but Taein, pulls me all the way to my feet. He slowly yanks my arm towards him, and I collide with his chest. His arms, warm and comforting, wrap around me as he buries his face into the nape of my neck, his hot breath tickling my skin. His body begins to shake as he sobs, squeezing me tighter. My hands slide up his back, clenching the fabric of his hospital gown in both fists. I press my face into his chest, my own tears rolling down my cheeks. The pain, the suffering, the agony. It's all over. My knees give out, and the two of us collapse on the gazebo floor, still holding each other as tightly as possible. The rain begins to let up as Taein's sobs die off. Slowly, he raises his head from the crook of my neck and stares right through me, rendering me useless. Gently, he pushes back a wet curl and wipes my remaining tears away with his thumb. I close my eyes slowly, reveling in the sensation of warmth trailing behind his touch. Taein pulls away, his eyes studying every inch of my face. I do the same, noticing all the things the camera can never pick up. We wrap our arms tight around each other. There are no words to describe this moment. It exists only between the two of us, something ancient and sacred. I'm not sure how long it's been since I walked out here. It seems like it's been no time and forever all at once. The rain has slowed to a gentle sprinkle, allowing me to see the rare night stars. But soon enough, the pure exhaustion hits me like a brick. These past few days have been terrifying and painful, and it seems that Taein feels the same way. He yawns, exhaustion evident in his eyes. Concerned, I lightly push his head onto my lap, silently signaling for him to sleep. He readjusts slightly, and soon his breathing is even. I sweep his dark blue hair away from his face and smile slightly, relieved that he's all right. I myself yawn moments later and look at the sky. The storm has passed, and the sky is clear, thousands of stars glowing brightly. I lean against the column he had rested against and drift to sleep, exhausted and content. And that is chapter 12.
All right. Then I guess I have some questions for you about your book.
Sure.
First, I just wanted to go ahead and ask, if you want to explain how you got your title.
So this was incredibly complicated. So with Mythomania, it was pretty easy for me to come up with that title. I have a habit of researching and finding interesting sounding words, and that one came up pretty early in the search. So it was like the first title. I didn't have to revise it or anything. But with this book, it was significantly more complicated because I had to think of a title that would be interesting and unique, not only for this book, but for the rest of the series. So the rest of the series obviously has to match the first books. So I was trying to think of a word that was interesting enough to really capture the essence of this book. And in case you don't know, laconic means to express much with few words, which if you can read it, you not very well, have a lot to say without saying much at all. So I thought that would be a perfect title for this book, and it is called Intro Laconic because it's the introduction to the series. There's more about why this book and the rest of the books are named this way that become incredibly evident in the second.
All right. And so I know, oh, sorry, I'm lagging a little bit here, but I did hear you saying that the second book is going to come out. Yeah, sorry if I'm talking over you. It's the Wi-Fi here is awful. But so you said that your next book is going to be coming out in April?
Oh, now your audio's out.
Okay, let me try and fix it real quick.
I can hear you again.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just asking, you said that your next book is going to be coming out in April?
Yes, it will be. Sometime the end of April. I don't have an exact date yet, but it will be the second book in this series.
All right, that's very exciting. I'm excited for it as well. And
Me
then
too. I've never written a sequel before, so.
yeah, and I definitely will be looking forward to it. And another thing is all your covers for your books are awesome. Like the last one for Mythomania, and I really liked, and I saw this one, and I was like, this is really epic. And so it's just a really well like made book, and it's visually aesthetic.
Thank
And
you.
so then next, I wanted to ask, where did you get the idea to have like soulmates? Like, where did that come from?
So, I have always read like a lot of fan fiction, of course, but this book wasn't originally fan fiction. But there are a lot of tropes that you see expressly in fan fiction that I don't think you see as much in traditionally published books. And one I've always loved was soulmates. I always just thought that was super cute. Like, how nice would it be if really in this world we could just know 100% that we had someone who was perfect for us out there waiting? So I took that idea and I wanted to run with it and make something fun. But I just love soulmate books. This probably will not be the last series with soulmates in it just because I love it so much.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a cute idea, and just the meeting and all the journey they went through was adorable. And then the next question I have is, who is your favorite character besides, or like who's your favorite character?
Ooh, that one's hard, actually. In this book, probably at least to write, Arabella. She's just she's chaotic. I love writing her, but between the two of them, I would have to say Venus is my favorite.
Yeah, and she's definitely my favorite as well. I really liked her. She's like the best friend that I wish I had, and yeah,
Yes.
And then next, did you so I know that you for your last one you had like, how do I put this? Just how is it different from writing the last book? Because I know that your last one was kind of based off of a fan fiction. I think you said, how is it writing this one? Did you like writing this one more or less, or what was the process like?
Well, I actually wrote the very first draft of this book like in ninth grade. So it had been quite a while. So back then I wrote much more sporadically than I do now. So originally some of the chapters were literally like 600 words long and that was it. So it was kind of choppy. So I had to go back and do a lot of editing for this book more than with Mytho because I had written it more recently and in a shorter time period. But I had to like make sure things made sense and that plot makes sense and redo certain scenes, or if there were things I put in that I felt like didn't age very well, I had to go back and edit those. So it was definitely harder on the editing point, just because I have more characters that are more important to the story, and I needed to make sure to lay the foundation not only for this book but for the rest of the whole series. So
Mhm.
that was interesting trying to come up with the plot long enough because originally I hadn't planned on it being a trilogy at all. But when we were editing it, I was like, this is already so long, and I haven't even gotten nearly to the point of what I wanted to say. So we decided to split it up. And Laconic contains probably about like 90% of my first original idea. And then I had to think about what I wanted the rest of the series to be like. So it was definitely more difficult to get away with, I think, than the last
Yeah,
book.
because you gotta think ahead. Yeah.
Mhm.
And next, do you have a favorite scene from this book that you enjoyed? Like, what when was your favorite part, or that's not a spoiler, that you enjoyed writing?
Probably that I enjoyed writing the most. The airplane scenes, like in the very beginning, like that's
Mhm.
terrible. I'm always so mean to my characters, but those were the most interesting to write personally. But as for just thinking about and reading, probably the scenes I just read in chapter 12. I just loved that scene. I thought it was really cute. And I that's the one I go back and read the most, definitely.
Oh yeah, for sure. And did you have any smaller favorite characters? Like for me, I sort of like Taein's family. They were just a little goofy. Like they met her and they were teasing him, and I thought that was a really cute scene that you had.
Mhm. Well, you'll definitely find more about his family in the next book. But for me, my favorite solo character is definitely um, Minky. I love him so much. He is my favorite, hands down. He is my favorite in the group entirely. So he's my bias. Don't tell Tan.
Yeah. I
He's a
honestly, I
sweetie.
liked him a lot too. In fact, he carries around lollipops all the time and
I
just
know, he's precious.
adorable.
And
I
I actually named him, his stage name is Ming Ming, and it was based on my favorite character from, ooh, what was it called? That show where they're pets who go and save other animals. I don't know if you ever watched it. I don't remember what it was called, but there's a little duckling and her name was Ming Ming. And I thought she was the cutest thing ever. So I decided to give that name to Minky.
Yeah, I love that name. Like I saw it and I was like, oh my goodness, just the cutest little boy we got out here. And yeah, and so I know last time we talked, I think I asked you if you had a favorite K-pop group right now, or like who inspired your book, or if this was just, not really based off of any K-pop groups, but I was just curious to see what groups you're into right now.
So BTS is still all on my walls, but this book I actually wrote when I thought writing fan fiction about people was weird. So it was not based on any groups, whatever whatsoever, which is so ironic now to think about Mytho. But yeah, this was entirely something I came up with. I thought it would be fun. That's the Wonder Pets. That's exactly the show I was talking about. But BTS is still my favorite. They're still my ults. They probably will always be my ults. I've invested so much time, effort, and money into them at this point. But yeah, so this group is not based on anyone at all.
Yeah, okay. And I'd also know, I think I asked you this before as well, but have you ever been to any concerts?
Yes. The last one I went to was actually Melanie Martinez. I saw her October 2019 before the pandemic hit. But before that, I had also seen Chase Atlantic, who is my second favorite group, and then I've seen BTS as well. So my top three, I've managed to see them in concert.
Yes, you're so lucky for that. I was supposed to
Yeah,
see them, but
I still have the
those
tickets from the
tickets.
tour, and
Yeah,
they're
me
pit
too.
tickets, which is the worst part.
Hmm.
So
Gotta resell them and go through the pain, and it's
I
just,
hope not.
oh yeah. But maybe they're just gonna think we forget about it, but that's not gonna happen.
Absolutely not. That
Yeah,
was so much effort.
yeah. And let's see. Um, so I meant to ask you, what is your major? You're an international studies major?
I am a Japanese and Asian studies major. So
And do you have any places in particular that you want to visit besides Japan, or just what is the places you look forward to visiting the most?
honestly, if I could afford to go, I would go everywhere. Like legitimately, I would go everywhere. There's something interesting to see on every continent and every country. But in my tops, I would really want to go to Egypt if I could and see the pyramids. I would like to go to the United Kingdom as well and see some of those sites. I've been to Paris and Italy before, but I would love to go to Paris again. It's so nice. And then just a lot of places in Japan are really interested in me, and I would definitely make that flight over to Korea while I was there, just to check it out.
Oh yeah, for sure. And do
Mhm.
you I had my question and then it just flew out of my mind.
Take your
Yeah.
time.
Sorry about that. But yes, did you have any authors growing up who inspires you to write?
I didn't really follow authors so much when I was younger. I didn't really pay them attention whatsoever. I was like, oh, a book, I'll read it. And that was it. But I did read the Dork Diary series a lot and then the Diary of a Wimpy Kid as well. So I liked reading those a bunch. But after that, I kind of just read whatever I found on like Amazon.
Yeah. And what's your writing process? Do you just sit down and write it out all at once, or is it just, more sporadic?
I am definitely a plantser. So usually I'll have an idea and then I'll write it in like a notes app in my phone, just something really super vague. Sometimes it's one sentence, sometimes it's several paragraphs, but usually most of my ideas come from dreams. So I'll write it down, and then when I'm like, okay, I'm ready to write this story, I'll think of a general storyline and kind of write down the important things of what I want to happen. So I'll just like bullet point the big things that I want to happen and then just write according to that. Sometimes I deviate from that plan pretty heavily, and other times I stick with it super like all the way.
And what have you done to, entertain yourself during the pandemic, of course, because, it's been a
Oh,
mess.
I've been binging so many TV shows. I binged like Killing Eve. I wish there was another season coming out. And then Sailor Moon, a whole bunch of different like anime. I just got finished watching the first season of The Promised Neverland last night. So I've just been binging, and then also reading a lot of fan fiction. That's it. That's all that's keeping me going at this rate.
Oh yeah, I definitely feel that. The shows, there's been so many new animes, and without them, I would have just probably died by now. It's
Yeah.
really tragic. But let's see. So, do you have any other books that you plan to write after you finish this series? And if so, like, what would the plots be?
Ooh, let me pull up my list. Also, I have this ongoing list, like I was saying earlier, and I have last time I counted like 30 something different ideas for books in the future. Just breezing through a more like a horror suspense thing where it moves into kind of an old city where no one really talks about anything and finds a castle in the woods with a ghost in it, and she has to figure that out. One about a siren and a hunter without giving too much away. Some stuff about aliens, some stuff about like dystopian worlds entirely. I would like to try and write a dystopian series, but I know that takes so much thinking and planning. Some cute, like, or typical like stuff. I want to do retellings at some point, and then a lot more books that lead more heavily into like horror and thriller. Especially the one I'm writing right now is about a girl who gets kidnapped by a mafia leader. So she decides to fight back. So it's going to be more interesting.
Oh yeah, those ones definitely sound like they're going to be really good. And what do you think you're going to do like with your writing in the future? Do you plan on doing this for like a really long time? And do you have like do you want this to be a part of your future as well as your major?
Honestly, if I could just be an author altogether, I absolutely would. Like if I woke up tomorrow and found out my book went viral and I've sold like 500,000 copies or whatever, I would drop out so quick. That
Oh
sounds
yeah.
terrible. But I think my major I chose just because I'm interested in it and I think it would be fun to do. But I will always be writing, even if it's something I have to do like late at night after I'm done teaching a class or whatever. So even if I never like make it super big or can pay my bills based entirely off of writing and writing alone, I will always do it.
Yeah. Okay. And did you have any questions that you wanted to ask us about like how what was I gonna say? Just anything that you wanted to say, go ahead and say to your audience and just let them know about your book that's just come out or about you in particular.
Ooh, just thank you for reading, first of all. That is always the biggest compliment whenever someone's like, "Oh my God, I read your book." That makes my entire day. Like, I love it. Also, not just for me, but for any other indie author, if you read one of their books, please leave a review because it helps so much with marketing and word of mouth and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. What do you want to teach? I would be teaching English in Japan, hopefully. After I graduate, that's the plan.
Do you have a part of Japan that you want to move to?
I want to really go to Kyoto because I think it's just a cool city. It has a lot of like historical roots and stuff. But I really want to try everywhere, go all over the country.
Oh yeah. And
Hmm.
Japan is just so cool to me. Like it's just so wildly different. I think it would be
Yeah.
an awesome job to have. But
Hmm.
also I think about learning languages. So
Hmm.
all right. And does anybody else have any questions in the audience? If not, I think let's check. Oh yes, and of course, we do have a question, and it's what happens if you meet your soulmate and you're already dating someone?
Ooh, that would not be very pleasant. In this book, in this particular reality, soulmates are inherently romantic. That might not be the case for everyone, but since so few people have actually met their soulmates, every one of the cases has been romantic. In this book, you literally cannot sleep without your soulmate, so that would be interesting because you physically have to be touching them to go to sleep. amongst other things. Generally, if they're not doing well, like in the health department, you're not going to be doing well either. So if you were dating someone, you probably would end up having to break up. Also, just because your emotions are so amplified within each other, a normal relationship like would not compare whatsoever. That would be unfortunate, though.
And I do have another question. So, when you have your soulmate, you aren't able to sleep with them. But before that, is it just until like you touch them that you can't sleep with them, or until you meet them you can't sleep with them? Before that, because you're all right.
Before that, you just live completely normally, just like how we go about our lives. You just entirely self-sufficient. But like once you meet your soulmate, you really have to be near them to sleep. So your body's not going to function very well if you go too far away from them. But before that, it's just entirely normal.
All right. And does anybody else have any questions? There was one. Is it possible to have multiple soulmates in this universe?
In this universe, there is not. But that is something I've written before. Is a trope I've tried writing before, and I find I don't really enjoy it. That would have a lot of drama. That would definitely be a lot of drama. But in this particular universe, you only ever have one soulmate. So,
all right. It looks like that might be the last question. Any more for today? Oh yeah, and I meant to ask you, have you always lived in Georgia?
No, I was born in Alabama and I moved here in 4th grade. So I've been here for most of my life, but I was not born here, no.
Yeah, because all of your books are there's sometimes when they are set in Atlanta, and I love that because you get a hey, I know where that is sometimes, and it's
Yeah,
just really cool.
I had to do a lot of research, just because I've been to the places they've been, most of them. I've been to the aquarium, to the World of Coke and everything, but I actually haven't been since I've lived in Georgia. I've only been like when I was living in Alabama and like came to visit people over here. So I had to go back and do a lot of research and make sure. And there was actually this one deleted scene that was based off of a field trip I took in 8th grade here, where we went to the mall with the joust. I forget what it's called, but you watch a joust in the mall when you get to eat.
The medieval times?
Yes, medieval times. So Venus Taein and the gang were going to medieval times originally, but I scrapped that that plot to fit in the whole water park scene instead. So I redid that part of the book, but it was fun originally.
And we have another question. What happens if you reject your soulmate?
Oof, that's never happened in this case of like in this universe. But if you rejected them like romantically, you wouldn't inherently have to be romantic with your soulmate, but you would have to figure out how the two of you like share a bed and live separate lives, and you have to live within a certain distance between you and your soulmate anyway. So that wouldn't go very well. I feel like that would be a lot of angst, and you would end up with each other eventually through some process. But you'd have to really figure it out. It would take a lot of work to not be together with your soulmate.
So the fire alarm is going off in my dorm room right now. So I should probably
You should evacuate.
Yeah, but I did want to say thank you so much for coming to the interview, and I loved your book so much. And if you guys want the book, we have it in stock, and of course, it's will be autographed at some point.
Be safe. Bye bye.
Thank you, and I'm so sorry about that.
You're fine.